The moment you and I, and the entire world were convinced Stephen Curry was on his way to changing the NBA forever. And trust me when I say this, I don't think anyone has had a welcoming moment quite like Steph. Let's revisit the time Stephen Curry became one of the most intimidating players of all time. Let's get deep into this, but before going straight to the content, here is the brand new information on the channel, is that 3 lucky winners will get a chance to win a PS5. You just have to comment on your views on this trade in the comments section below. Let's start today's topic. Let's rewind to 2008, shall we? It was one of the biggest college basketball duels of all time, when 2 of the top prospects of the upcoming 2009 NBA draft faced off against each other. Stephen Curry versus Oklahoma City Thunder big man Blake Griffin. What made this game even more special were some of the people who were actually there that day. LeBron James, Kevin Durant, and Russell Westbrook. LeBron was arguably the best player in the world, and Westbrook and Durant were the next greats. The young duo of the NBA looking to establish the next powerhouse team in the league. And they all came to watch the 6'3", baby-faced looking point guard go up against what many believed was the consensus next best NBA prospect in the 6'10" tall Blake Griffin. Oklahoma won a thrilling game led by Blake Griffin's 25 points and even this attempt. Slam dunk as time expired in regulation, for some extra spice, I guess. But even in a loss, Steph showed up and showed out with 44 points and an epic shooting display that had everyone's jaw dropped, and I got to say KD, LeBron, and Russ was all hype. And Steph that day looked like the best prospect for the upcoming NBA draft. But sure, everyone knew he was good. But was he special? Would he, I don't know, become one of the greatest players of all time? If you haven't already watched the video, why the Golden State Warriors will be even scarier next season, click the I button to watch it. No one could begin to imagine just what Steph Curry would go on to do in his NBA career. Scouts labeled Steph as someone who lacks proper shot selection and got this, his first step is average at best. And considering his skinny frame and poor explosiveness around the basket in traffic, it's unlikely that he'll be able to get to the free throw line anywhere near as much in the NBA as he does in college. Some foolish scouts said this about the guy who carved a career not just from getting to end, making over 90% of his free throws, but also from becoming one of the greatest below the basket finishers of all time, especially at his size. But despite the performance that put Steph under the national spotlight, he was still far from it, becoming the absolute terror of an offensive player that he is today. Even if KD, LeBron, and Russ approved of Steph and were blown away by what they saw, the baby-faced assassin was still on the come-up. Watching Steph Curry evolve into an all-star was not always the most encouraging thing for Warriors fans. After his first couple of years in the league, which were notably plagued by several knee injuries, came perhaps the biggest reason why Steph became Steph. Oh, and just thank the Milwaukee Bucks for rejecting a trade that would have sent them Steph Curry in favor of a trade that got them Monty Ellis instead. And no offense to Monty Ellis, he was a star and all, but he's no Steph. The Warriors sent Ellis to the Bucks in March of the 2011-12 season. And come the 2012-13 season, this was Steph's first opportunity to be the sole quarterback for a rapidly improving young team. A team that added another sharpshooter in Klay Thompson a year earlier. Steph may have convinced the world that he is indeed dangerous, but he wasn't even an all-star yet. But that's what makes this moment all the more special. And what better way to introduce your superstar potential than in the mecca of basketball in a nationally televised game? Ladies and gentlemen, on February 27, 2013, just a year after the Ellis trade and exactly 3 years before his shot to win the game from near half-court against the OKC Thunder, Steph walked into Madison Square Garden and lit the Knicks up for 54 points. And it was on that day that basketball changed forever. The Knicks have been bad for so long now that people forget that Steph did this against the Knicks, the team that was having their best season in years. Steph did this against a team that finished the year with the 7th best record in the NBA and a team that finished 2nd in the East. Steph Curry put on a performance that stunned every basketball fan in the world. Remember, this was 2013. We watch now. Far from the league now. Far from the league. Teams weren't shooting 15 three-pointers a game back then like they are now. 2013 was still the time when any player would get benched if they attempted even half the shots Steph took during this game against the Knicks. To frame this better, the Miami Heat were neck and neck with the Warriors for the best three-point shooting team in the league from a percentage standpoint during the 2012-13 season. And they attempted only 8 threes per game. During this performance for the record books, Steph drilled an impossible 11 three-pointers on 13 attempts and shot 18 for 28 overall from the floor. The ultra-efficient Steph was ripping the net on nearly every shot from distance, at least at the time. Put together the greatest shooting performance in a single game in the history of basketball. And then Steph famously ran up the court, shimmying to the other end of the court and ignoring any high fives anyone tried giving him. And he did this all while playing a game-high 48 minutes. This was 2 years before Steph's first MVP. 2 years before his first title. Years before his trademark night-night celebration. And still, even before the entire league would catch on to the new age three-point shooting party, players were letting threes fly from places on the court they previously thought they wouldn't ever try in an actual NBA game. What's crazier about this all is that this Steph Curry performance came roughly 10 days after the NBA All-Star Game. And if you think back to the 2013 NBA All-Star Game, you'll probably remember that Steph Curry wasn't even selected as an All-Star that year. Steph, who was only in his 4th NBA season, still hadn't quite arrived as the Steph, who's a 4-time champ and a former unanimous MVP he is today. So, that game got everyone buzzing. Dirk Nowitzki said, "Just saw Steph's highlights, damn clinic. Like a video game called Sick." Kyrie Irving said, "Sheesh, Stephen Curry, 30, went to work." He even had his teammates in awe of what they just witnessed this man do. And to give you an idea of just how revolutionary Steph's performance was, wait until you hear this. In 2012, Steph wasn't even in the top 10 of the best-selling jerseys for the 2011-12 season. Guys like Rajon Rondo, Darren Williams, and even ISO Joe Johnson all did far better than Steph in merchandise sales. In 2013, again, these same 3 guys will be there, including an aging Kevin Garnett. All had better selling jerseys than the man who was getting ready to transform not just NBA basketball but the game of basketball at every level. But after Steph announced himself to the world against the Knicks late in the 2012-13 season, he finished in the top 5 of total jersey sales for the 2013-14 season. So, in a span of just 1 season, the Warriors went from not even making the top 15 in jersey sales to the top 5. Joining the likes of LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, Carmelo Anthony, and Kobe Bryant. Kids were beginning to find a little more about this 6'3" sniper out of Davidson. And Steph's rise to becoming the face of the NBA officially began. All this for a guy who didn't even make the All-Star game. And I know that today's game is a lot different than it was in 2013, but I can think of at least a handful of players who've gotten an All-Star nod over the past few seasons who were never even remotely as impactful as Steph was even early in his career. Ahead of the 2013-14 season, all of a sudden, Stephanie was one of the top 10 favorites to win the league. MVP league. When has this ever happened? When has a non-All-Star gone into the following season as one of the betting favorites to win league MVP? Not only did Steph make the All-Star game in 2014, but he blew away the fan vote with more votes than Kobe Bryant. LeBron finished second in the entire fan voting, of course, behind only LeBron. Only he and LeBron received more than 1 million votes. Not even KD, who would go on to win MVP, earned as many votes as Steph. Not even Dwayne Wade or Carmelo Anthony. After not even getting more votes than LaMarcus Aldridge a season earlier. I mean, you can't make it. This may just go down as one of the quickest and most dramatic transformations to the superstardom of any player in NBA history. And thus was born the greatest shooter to ever play in the NBA. A lot of today's fans were either young enough that they didn't fully comprehend what exactly went down that day with Steph in 2013, or simply just too young. But ladies and gentlemen, I think we can correctly say, basketball forever changed that February day in 2013. And it was all thanks to a guy who had a bad shot selection and a below average first step at one point. I don't even think bad shot selection even exists anymore, and you can thank that once 170-pound guy who came out of Davidson. So what do you think about this trade? Do let us know in the comments section below and get a chance to win a brand new PS5. If you enjoyed watching the video, do like and share it, and yes, don't forget to hit that notification bell. Thank you so much.